Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. We're here this evening. We got DanK on this end, and on this side, the other side with Jeremy. Jeremy here is in his shades, incognito. Light's a little bit bright, so we'll try the glasses. Do our usual announcements here. Wanted to tell you again about the growers2patients.net website. That's growers spelled out, the number 2 patients.net. If you look for a grower or you're a grower looking for a patient, that's a good way to get on and network. And there's no charge for that, and it's a tool, so please use it. See, we've got the poster contest for the Hempfest. Haven't had much response on it yet, and we're running out of time. So if you're an artist and like to have an idea for a poster for our contest, you could be the 2014 Emerald Empire Hempfest poster artist. It could happen. So you go on the website and get out the information on that. We're also working on a fundraiser. We're looking at the date, nothing set yet, but we're looking at April 5th, possibly Cozmic Pizza, and we'd like to do a talent show. So if you'd like to help out with that or have some ideas, we could certainly appreciate it. We've never done a talent show, so if you got anybody with experience in that regard, would be a big help. Then next volunteer meeting for the Hempfest is March 15th. That's always the third Saturday every month. In March, that's the 15th. We'll be meeting at 2 o'clock, and that'll also be at Cozmic Pizza. So let's get on with our stories. The first thing we want to talk about is Jeremy's going to read a little bit about Oregon's SB 1531, and you get down to the politicians, and I'll take it over.
Oregon's SB 1531 would allow cities and counties to enact reasonable zoning rules for medical cannabis dispensaries. The bill passed the Oregon Senate with acceptable language. However, the bill is now in the House Committee on Judiciary, where amendments that would allow the cities and counties to impose bans on medical dispensaries. This is unacceptable. We urge you to call all members of the House Judiciary Committee, especially the committee chair, Rep. Jeff Barker, to not add any amendments to SB 1531. Patients in other states that have allowed cities and counties to ban have endured great difficulty maintaining a consistent supply of medicine and have been greatly inconvenienced by having to travel an unnecessary distance to obtain their physician-recommended medicine. Tell the members of the House Judiciary Committee respect the needs of medical cannabis patients. Please do not add any amendments to Senate Bill L 1531.
That's right, and we don't want to read off the whole list of phone numbers and all, but you can get information if you send us an email. Send an email to dankbagman@hotmail.com. I can send you that information. But we need to talk to, or send a note to Chair Jeff Baker, and then the representatives Barton, Krieger, Cameron, Hicks, Liniger, Olson, Tommy, Williamson. In particular, Andy Olson. Andy Olson is a retired Oregon State police officer that's a representative and probably one of our biggest enemies. He keeps talking about how he believes in the program, and then he comes up with these different ideas for laws that will end up hurting the program. And anyway, I don't think much of him. But anyway, I can give you the information, so be sure we need to contact these people because it's 1531. For a while there, it was looking pretty good. It was looking like that they were going to amend it to where cities could control the hours and have some control over it, but they could not outright ban it. And that was going to be the way it was, as I understood it. Now, as we're getting down, the session's coming to an end, and now we're not too sure, and now it's starting to look like the cities might be able to ban dispensaries again. So I'm not sure what's going on with this bill, but it's one that...
It seems a little bit late in the game for them to be trying anything because the dispensary rules go into effect on March 1st.
That's right, and that's a problem. And see that we got the dispensary laws rules going into effect. We've got the we got so many irons of fire, so many things going on at once that none of them are getting the attention that they really need. The HB 3460 is being implemented. The latest thing on that one is it appears that there was a mistake made, and they made a designation on molds and mildews. Something to do with that. It's a major mistake that they've made, and we don't know how that's going to turn out, but it definitely could affect patients because it is medicine, you know. So just going to see where that goes. But anyway, we need to call them about SB 1531 and tell them to just make the least amount of restrictions on patients' medicine distribution as possible. Also, encourage them to implement SB 3460 without any more impedance. You know, we got to get the patients need to be able to have access to their medicine. So that's what that's all about. So. And now, in Washington, this is an interesting article. This comes from the Associated Press. It was in the Seattle Times on the 19th of February. Washington State forecasts $190 million from recreational pot initially. It says the state's new legal recreational marijuana market is expecting to bring nearly $190 million to state coffers over a 4-year period starting in mid-2015, according to an economic forecast released Wednesday. The forecast by the Economic and Review Forecast Council show that $51 million is expected for the 2015-2017 biennium from the marijuana production and sales. An annual $138.5 million is expected for the next 2-year budget that ends in mid-2019. A little less than half that revenue is expected from excise tax and license fees related to the marijuana market. The rest is forecast to come from retail sales tax and business taxes. The passage of Initiative 502 in 2012 allowed the sale of marijuana to adults for recreational use at licensed stores, which are due to open by summer. Steve Lurch, the council's executive director, said that because of concerns over local moratoriums and bans on pot sales, and general uncertainty about how the system will work, the council has made assumptions that sales won't start until June 2015. Obviously, as we see any actual sales, we'll be able to revise, if necessary, our forecast, he said, but these seem like reasonable estimates. Republican Ross Hunter, Democrat Medina, a member of the Revenue Forecast Council and the top budget writer of the House, said, "More money is better, but there's not a whole lot more here." Hunter said he expects the forecast to move around over the next couple of years as the market takes hold and lawmakers see how much money there actually is. "We just don't know," he said. "The expansion is slow. The stores aren't open. Something's going to happen. We don't know exactly what it is. We're using the best data we have." Colorado is the only other state to legalize recreational pot sales, and its marijuana market is far exceeding tax expectations, according to a budget proposal released Wednesday by Governor John Hickenlooper. That's quite a name, isn't it? Hickenlooper. Yep. Retail sales began January 1 in Colorado, and while sales have been strong, exact figures for January sales won't be made public until early March. That's going to be really interesting. However, Hickenlooper's proposal outlined plans to spend some $99 million next fiscal year on substance abuse prevention, youth marijuana use prevention, and other priorities. The money would come from a statewide 10% sales tax on recreational pot, including Colorado's total sales next fiscal year will be near $1 billion. The overall updated Washington State forecast for the current 2-year $33 billion budget cycle shows lawmakers may have $30 million more available through 2015, and that they'll have an additional $82 million more than projected for the 2015-2017 biennium, with more than half of that increase because of the recreational marijuana market. The projected overall state budget for 2015-17 is expected to be $34.7 billion and increase to $38.7 billion for the next 2-year budget cycle that begins July 1st, 2017. The next revenue forecast is June 18. So it's interesting how this will play out. You know, Colorado, Zener's been reading the sales in Colorado. It's actually, if you go into the store and buy it legally, it's actually more than, it costs you more than it would on the black market, so I understand it. Which sounds kind of the opposite of what we're supposed to be at. But anyway, this next story, we've all been getting a chuckle out of, and Jeremy is going to read that
Girl
for us.
Scout outsells cookies outside pot clinic. What's cooler than a Girl Scout selling cookies? A business-savvy Girl Scout who sets up shop outside a cannabis clinic to rev up her skills. 13-year-old Girl Scout Danielle Lee did brisk business last Monday, selling dulce de leches and other flavors outside the Green Cross Medical Marijuana Clinic in San Francisco, Omash Able reported. Danielle was able to sell 117 boxes within 2 hours outside the cannabis clinic, 37 more than what she sold within the same amount of time frame at a local Safeway the next day, according to Mashable. It's no secret that cannabis is an appetite stimulant, and so it's not shocking that a lot of our patients came in and purchased cannabis, then saw the cookies and purchased them, said Holly Burt, a spokesperson for the Green Cross. But it wasn't just the patients. Staff members and neighbors also bought the cookies. I personally bought 5 boxes that turned out to be a big success. Burt said that Danielle's mother had contacted the Green Cross to set up the sale outside the store. We were happy to have her come. She is extremely business savvy, Burt said. Danielle's mother, Carol, takes her 2 daughters to different places around San Francisco to sell cookies so they can learn about different environments, Mashable reported. Carol told old NBC that the family is not doing any more interviews. The Green Cross was so happy with the outcome that they have invited her back to their store on Saturday, February 22. My question is, how is this even legal to have a minor selling cookies outside of business
I don't know. Yeah, we
for
might
adults only?
might be hearing about that, so we'll stay tuned. We've got to get on. We've got to close this segment. We've got another one coming up, so we'll let you know any more details on that one. We'll be right back.
Grandpa's got glaucoma, now he's on the witness stand, 'cause he lives in Oklahoma, where medical use is banned. He tried some marijuana, doctor said he wouldn't tell, but that doc turned Grandpa in, now he's in this prison cell. Should have gone to NORML, that's NORML, NORML.org, right from your Dell. They fight the marijuana laws, both federal and state. Just enter in your email, they'll keep you up to date.
Welcome back to the second half of Eugene Cannabis TV. We're here, I got DanK here, and you've got Jeremy next to me. We're going through some news stories. We've just talked about Girl Scouts cookie sales in San Francisco in front of the medical clinic. Not a clinic, but the dispensary. But anyway, so this is from the Mercury News. This is written by Josh Richmond. Major marijuana legalization measure off the table for 2014. This is kind of a sad story that I hate to even talk about, but despite polls indicating that Californians have posed to legalize pot, the station's best shot for a marijuana measure has suddenly gone up in smoke. And that likely means the Golden State will have to wait until at least 2016 to catch up with other pot-friendly Western states. Backers of the Control, Regulate, and Tax Marijuana Act, including the Drug Policy Alliance, bankrolled by millionaires such as financier George Soros and the late Peter Lewis, said Tuesday they will stop gathering signatures to put the measure on the ballot this year. We decided it was more important to do it right than to do it fast, Stephen Gutwillig, the Drug Policy Alliance's Deputy Executive Director, said Tuesday. We ultimately came quite close, but just decided we didn't have enough of the pieces in place right now. Colorado and Washington have already legalized recreational pot, and a field poll in December reported 55% of Californians now support legalization. The first time in 44 years that the poll found a clear majority favoring the change. That followed other polls earlier in 2013 showing fast-growing support for legalization,
I would think it's even
which
more
thrilled
than that
marijuana
in California.
activists. What's that?
I would think that the numbers would be even higher than that in California.
Yeah. But that excitement didn't bring unity. Besides the Drug Policy Alliance measure, 2 other legalization initiatives started circulating in recent months, though neither seems to have the deep pockets and grassroots backing needed to successfully gain a position on this November's ballot. Proponents of the 3 measures were never able to come to terms over how to legalize the weed. They disagreed on how marijuana sales would be regulated, how much weed people could grow or possess, and how legalization of recreational pot would interact with California's existing medical marijuana laws.
It seems to be the problem that none of the people that want to legalize it can get along with each other.
Yes, especially in Oregon. Yes, big time. The group Americans for Policy Reform still hopes to make a go of its California Marijuana Control, Legalization, and Revenue Act by April's petition signature deadline. But Dave Hodges, one of its proponents, said fundraising has been difficult, in part because the Drug Policy Alliance's measure sucked all the air out of the room. The campaign has raised only about $10,000 in recent weeks, and the campaign finance report says it was about $500 in the red as of December 31st. Yet Hodges, founder of San Jose's All-American Cannabis Club, said he hopes the money will start rolling in soon. He said the campaign's short-term goal is about $3 million in order to get the measure on the ballot. We're feeling really good about our chances, he said. Colorado and Washington voters approved their legalization measures in November 2012, and Colorado stores began selling marijuana legally to great fanfare on January 1st, while Washington is expected to start in June. Alaskans are expected to vote on a measure in August. Advocates in Oregon hope to put a measure on November's ballot, but fundraising has been slow. And by the way, I want to jump in there now. That could be a possibility. This is only speculation on my part, but if California stopped gathering signatures and Soros and the late Peter Lewis group aren't putting money into California, then maybe will break loose and put the money into Oregon and start our campaign and start gathering signatures. I've been told that we could do it in a little as a, they could actually do it in a little as a month if they actually had the money to start the campaign. So I don't know, but at this point
it's cutting it pretty close.
Yes, at this point it's not looking good for Oregon either, I have to tell you. Yeah, in 2010 only 46.5% of Californians voted for Proposition 19, a legalization measure, even though the field poll at the time pegged support for legalization at 50%. Federal law still bans the cultivation, sales, possession, and use of marijuana, though the Obama administration last week issued new guidelines for federally regulating banks that work with marijuana-related businesses in Colorado, Washington, and the 20 states, including California, where marijuana is sold for medical use. Gutwillig said his coalition had thought it would be best for California not to try another legalization measure until 2016, when the presidential election would mobilize a larger, younger voter population. But, he said, polling last year showed Californians are ready now to control marijuana in a different way. They see legalization as inevitable. See, that's my argument. When they talked about they're going to quit because they didn't have enough money for a campaign, we lost. We didn't have money for a campaign last election either, and we lost by 47%. So even without a campaign, we almost won. So I'm saying that now that the tide has changed even more, the polls are even more favorable. I've been saying all along that Oregon, we have it's a victory. We have a victory. It's ours to lose. I'm trying to say in 2014, but we got to get it on the ballot. If it gets on the ballot, I think it'll win. But we got to get it there, and that's I don't know.
And the polls only tell people so much because not everyone's willing to tell what they truly think about cannabis to someone doing the poll.
Yeah. So Gutley, he says his group began hiring consultants, stepping up its research and drafting a measure. The group filed it with the state even before the field poll came out in December. Ultimately, however, the time frame proved too short, Gutley said Tuesday. If we had a couple more months, we could have been able to do it, he said. Noting that the coalition had lined up enough money to put the measure on the ballot, but had not yet enough to run the full campaign. So that's what I'm saying. I wish they'd gone and got it on the ballot and worried about the campaign next. But yet another measure, the California Cannabis Hemp Initiative, has been circulating in recent months. Proponent Buddy Dozy of Simi Valley couldn't be reached for comment Tuesday. Dozy, in late January, resubmitted the measure to the state attorney general's office, essentially restarting the clock for the measure and thus making it almost impossible to gather enough signatures by mid-April to make November's ballot. So it looks like California is out of the running for 2014 legalization, and Oregon is still completely up in the air. The legislature could refer the measure to the voters, but we probably won't do it. Too many Republicans is a problem, basically.
Yeah, it's hard to say what they're trying to do because there's been no recent word on it. It got through the House.
And all along, they figured, and we figured, that if they didn't do it, that we would do it. We would have an initiative on the ballot. So we have two of them now that we're gathering signatures for, which we talked about in the past, Measure 21 and 22. And if you'd like to gather signatures on that one, again, get a hold of us here. We can get you set up with those. But right now, there's no money for the campaign. So we'll have to see what the legislature does. And if they won't put it on the ballot, there's a chance that we may find the funding and get one on the ballot yet. So it's still up in the air. We just don't know. Measure 21 and 22, as we talked about in the past. 21 is the improved Octa, similar to one last year. And then 22 is the, or is it the other way around? No, it's the other way around. 21 is the, 21 is the amendment, and 22 is the is Octa. And then I-37, which is the third initiative. That's being done by New Approach Oregon. So we've got two different groups working on three different initiatives, and nobody works with each other. That's just the way it is in Oregon cannabis movement. So anyway, let's jump over here to our drug war headlines. We haven't had time in the past to do too much with them, so let's jump in there. And I got two issues here. The first one is drug war headlines number 821 of the week of February 12th. Now again, this is stopthedrugwar.org. This is their news headlines. I received these as an email. You can also sign up for that, and weekly you'll get these headline roundup, and you can click on it and read the story. So it's a great way to catch up on what's going on. We like to read the headlines and just give you an idea of what's out there. So the first story on the February 12th week is Hoffman heroin and what is to be done. The death of Felix Seymour Hoffman has focused a media spotlight on heroin overdoses. There are better ways to deal with heroin than the current one, if there is the will.
Michigan High Court rules for medical marijuana. In a critical ruling, the Michigan Supreme Court has blocked localities from banning medical marijuana-related activities that are allowed under the state's Medical Marijuana Act.
The medical marijuana update. Lots of action at the State House on medical marijuana this week. Plus, Arizona eases up on the rules, and the Michigan Supreme Court hands down a bellwether decision in favor of patients.
Texas man not indicted for killing cop in a no-knock drug raid. In a highly unusual move and one that should be a heads-up call for aggressive law enforcement, a Texas grand jury has declined to indict a man for murder who killed a sheriff's deputy doing a pre-dawn no-knock drug raid.
And this week's corrupt news story, cop stories. A felonious foursome of public servants make the Hall of Shame this week. I'll start off and then the next one is, this is the Stop the War Drug headlines number 822 for the week of April 20th. February 20th. Again, it's stopthedrugwar.org. You can go ahead and take the next story.
Mexico marijuana and drug reform bills filed. A pair of bills, one local and one national, were introduced in Mexico City last week. They address marijuana retail sales, medical marijuana, and more drug decriminalization changes in the wind.
And we got a Chronicle book review, Meth Mania. We review Nicholas Parsons' Meth Mania, History of Methamphetamine, and find it most useful. So we got to cut this short. On our headlines is, again, that's stopthedrugwar.org. Come on down to the studios every Monday at 7:30 behind Sheldon High School next to KRVM, and come by and say hi. Come on, be on the show. You're welcome to come in. We appreciate Jeremy coming in and helping out on the show. We got our crew of 2 or 3 here tonight. We'll see you next week.